So when we're working on characters, you may have, if you're working in a production environment, a back and forth between your modeling department and then also maybe the rigging department who's doing animation tests and things with the face to see how the geometry that you have is going to deform properly. So in some cases you may have to modify some things, and for instance you may have to add resolution in certain areas. For instance, we want to get a furrow of the brow, and we want to get this procerus area in the middle of the brows here. We want to have enough resolution to be able to kind of furrow that. And so you can come in here, and in this case we want to think of it as being one shape on both sides. And so rather than just extruding this one face, I want to think of this as half. So I'm actually going to use the split polygon tool. So let's go ahead and access that. And then I'll draw from, I think, right across here. And let's go ahead and come down to this corner. And then we'll repeat that, come from the base of this triangle, come up here. And then I'll kind of move that up. And that's as if we would have extruded this and the other side as well. So we get that little bit of that detail in here. Even if you don't use it to shape it, it's there in case they need it. And then we can go ahead and use our split polygon tool to move this geometry up the head. And one thing you can do when you have to add extra resolution to the head is just under the hairline, cut it off at the center. Now we can create a quad here. Once we mirror this over, we can delete the center line, and that will help hide that potentially troublesome area when we that may, in an area that's not going to deform and it's going to be hidden by geometry both. So it should be fine there. I'll go ahead and spread some of these lines out a little bit, and that'll just give you some extra geometry there. Okay, we can also come in and clean some of these things up, like around the nose. You can use the, as I said, the sculpt geometry tool. We can come down here, and maybe they've done some tests with a smile. This being cut off here isn't really working for that line. We want kind of a continuous line there. So what we can do is go ahead and get rid of that line, and then use our insert edge loop tool to add a new edge loop right in there. And then we'll use our split polygon tool to connect it up. And then we want to add a new edge loop going this way down into the corner of the mouth, which will help us maintain the sharpness of the mouth. And then connect that up. So that'll give us a continuous line all the way around versus having it cut off there. So that might give you, make your deformations a little bit better, work a little bit better for you. Okay. So you take that as an opportunity, kind of look around your model and find those other areas that you may want to tweak a little bit. Again, you can smooth that out a little. You can see we get a nice clean line now coming down here. We want that flesh to kind of flow around the mouth. We can come in with our sculpt geometry tool. I've got it set to smooth. Then we can just come in and kind of smooth some of these areas out. So the next thing that we want to create is the ear. So let's talk about this area over here. In the past lessons, we looked at connecting things like the arms and the legs by creating separate geometry, creating a hole, and then combining and connecting that up. In this case, you could do the same thing. You could create your ear, create an opening for the ear, and then connect it. If you want to have a more detailed ear and you want to be able to concentrate on the topology of the ear. If you want to have more of a stylized, simpler ear, we can go ahead and just create it right off of the surface. So first we need to figure out where exactly we need to bring this ear off of, and we can use our image planes as a guide. So looking at this, it looks like maybe this area right around here would be a good place to bring that ear off of. Okay, that's kind of the way it's lined up. Now right now it's kind of heading towards the back of the head, and so what we might want to do is go ahead before we actually extrude anything out and just add a little bit more shape to this. So taking this and kind of pushing this back a little bit into the side of the head, kind of flattening that out a little. Let's change our fall off radius so it's a bit larger, maybe bringing some of this out a little bit more. so the ear's not so much towards the back of the head. Okay, you can look at that there. So we'll go ahead and now select those polygons. So let's turn off soft select here. We want to select the polygons that are going to best define the base of the ear. So thinking about, where the ear is actually connected to the head. So I think these are probably going to work for us. So the first thing I'll do is to go ahead and just extrude, and let's kind of extrude these in a little bit. Okay, and then we can start to shape this. So the base of the ear we want to be maybe a little bit more, have a little bit more shape than being just this sort of rectangle. And so we can come in and start to define the shape a little bit more. Not necessarily the shape of the lobe, the outer ear, but the shape of where that's actually going to be connected to the head. So we can come in and just refine this base a little bit. Again, not necessarily trying to match it up with this, but just trying to make that base area. Okay, now we can go ahead and select those polygons on the inside. Okay, make sure we don't have anything else selected, and we'll go ahead and extrude those, and this time we'll pull them out. So we can start to pull these out, and then I want to kind of rotate them back towards the head a little bit. Let's do another extrude and pull this out. And let's go ahead and scale this up a bit. Okay. Now at this point, we want this to blend back into the head. So at this point, I'm going to come in here on the front of this ear and start to work this geometry back in. And one of the ways that we can do this would be to come in and actually merge these three together and push them back towards the surface. So kind of push that back towards the head. Okay, we can do the same thing here. Push that back in. Same thing down here. Merge those together. So we want the front of the ear to kind of blend back in with the head. Okay, here we can just kind of push this back in. Now this is going to be the inside of sort of the lobe area. Not the lobe, but the helix, and then the lobe down at the bottom. And so I want to start to make this match up with our artwork a little bit more. I'll do it kind of from the side and come down here, do the same thing. Make sure to get that outer point and not the inner point. And it doesn't have to match up, exactly, but I want it to be fairly close. Come in here, and we can start to kind of move some of this geometry back a little bit, so match up with that image of the ear. We can come in here and start to match up the front view, so we can see that the ear has a lot of shape from the front, and we want to try to get that shape as well. So we want to go ahead and bring it out. Same thing here, and here we'll kind of bring this in a bit. Okay, now let's try to get kind of the thickness of the ear. So we'll select those same polygons and extrude out the thickness of the ear. So we'll do another extrude. Get that kind of thickness there. And then let's do another one. And let's go ahead and scale this one in. You can change your axis if you need to. Make it scale a little bit better, just to get the thickness of that helix and then down to the lobe. Again, creating a simplified version of our ear. Not creating all of the structures. If you want to go into that, we do have courses on creating those more realistic ears. That's one of those things when you're doing character modeling that you can create a library of different parts that you can reuse. So if you are finding yourself creating a lot of human characters, you may want to create a library of ears or noses, or just maybe one default ear or nose that you can really quickly add to your model and then tweak the shape of it, because the structures are going to be pretty much the same. No matter what kind of human you're creating, they're going to be pretty much the same kind of ear. The helix and the antihelix and tragus and all the different parts of the ear are going to remain pretty much the same. So that can save you time, having that asset library that you can access and not have to build everything from scratch, sort of reinventing the wheel, as they say. Alright, so once we get that built in, we can now start to take this inner part and go ahead and extrude that in. Okay, and then let's go ahead and take this lobe, or part of this, where this lobe would be down here, and go ahead and kind of pull this up a bit and just kind of blend it in with the ear. And then I'm going to take these 4 polygons here and go ahead and push those in. And kind of scale them down a little bit. Then if you want to take these 2, kind of push those in and forward, maybe scale those down a little bit. And then you could take this geometry here and extrude that, kind of extrude it back a little bit. And let's take some of those points. Let's take these points here and kind of move them around to shape this tragus here. Just this sort of little flap. Again, not really being too specific, but just kind of adding a little bit of detail in there. And you can kind of smooth that out and check it. And you can see you can get kind of a rough approximation of an ear if you're doing something stylized like this. You probably want to add a little bit more shape to this. I'll bring this down a little bit. And you probably want to bring this whole thing up. Let's take our fall off down a little. So once you have the structure in, you can kind of move it around a little bit, maybe bring that forward, bring that back, and then, from here, maybe it's a little bit too small, so we'll bring it out, and just kind of match it up from that direction. Alright, so that's a quick way that we can build things like ears off of existing geometry. Then we can kind of match it up there. It'll have hair around it, so that'll help as well. So that's a look at kind of tweaking some of the topology and also adding things like simple ears to our character models. The next thing that we want to do is go ahead and mirror this over, and then we want to start to create the neck and the inside of the mouth as well. So we'll go ahead and do that next.